Hi guys, what a night we had last night. Of course, Bethesda had their conference at E3 and announced a collection of great looking games, including Doom, which looked amazing, Dishonored 2, which is another one I'm really looking forward to, but of course, the main attraction, the thing that most of us were watching it for, Fallout 4. It was officially announced in all of its glory. They showed us so much more than we saw in that trailer a few weeks ago, and to be honest, it kind of blew my mind. It was an incredible conference. I feel sorry for the developers who have to follow them. They have got a tough act to follow, really. They really do. Now, I was actually live streaming the entire night. I think I did a 10-hour stream, at least 9 hours, and it was pretty tiring. I finally got to bed at 6 a.m. Actually, no, 7 a.m. 7 a.m. because I was writing down some stuff and collecting my thoughts for this video, actually. It was a long night. It was great fun. I hung out with a lot of you guys. There were thousands of people in the end that were watching the conference along with me, and we saw many things, and I want to discuss them in this video. It was also a kind of cool coincidence, but I was live streaming whilst I passed the 300,000 subscriber mark, which was, you know, a really nice coincidence. And of course, I want to give a big thanks to you guys for being part of that, 300,000. I do appreciate it. However, let's get on. Let's discuss what it was we saw, the things we now know, and perhaps even the things that we still don't know about Fallout 4.
Atom bomb baby, sweet as a plum, carries more water than uranium. When she kisses, there's no hitch. 0 hours, she turns on the switch. Atom bomb baby.
Anytime anyone has asked me what I am looking forward to in Fallout 4, what do I really want to see in Fallout 4, one of the first things I always say is an interesting world. I always felt that Fallout 3 had a really interesting world. It was very well done. It was detailed. Obviously it was post-apocalyptic, so it was devastated, but yet somehow it managed to be quite beautiful. It was interesting, and that to me was something I wanted them to recapture for Fallout 4, because in Fallout New Vegas, although I loved that game and many aspects of that game were vastly superior to Fallout 3, the world was not one of them. The world of Fallout New Vegas was pretty boring, actually, pretty flat and featureless. I was not a fan of that, especially when you compared it to the DC Wasteland, especially the central areas in Fallout 3. So for Fallout 4, I wanted to see a world that just was interesting, had character, had variation, had lots of little details that just made it feel real, that somehow brought home the reality of the devastation. And what I saw last night really made me ecstatic. It looks incredible. It really does look very detailed indeed, but more than anything, just interesting. It looks like the sort of world I just want to wander around in for weeks and months. I want to explore every corner, not just to max my quest log, but to just explore it, to experience the world. So right off the bat, what I was seeing was a major win, a major plus point. The world, it looks good. Related to how the world feels, how interesting it is, there is also the issue of how does it look? What are the visuals like in the game? And I have to say, it looked pretty damned nice. I mean, this is not going to win any awards. It's not going to be the nicest looking game you have seen this year or even in past years. It does look like a game that came out a few years ago, which is pretty much what most of us expected. However, it is a noticeable step up from Skyrim. And it uses the Skyrim engine. That was confirmed in an interview with Todd Howard. It is what he described as a next generation version of the Creation Engine. It's still the Creation Engine, they've tweaked it, essentially. And the tweaks are fairly obvious when you look at the graphics. For those of you who played on PC, played Skyrim on PC and used an ENB, you will be looking at this engine and thinking it kind of looks like they've got a built-in ENB. There were hints of god rays, the shadows were a lot nicer than Skyrim shadows. I mean, how could they be worse, right? And there were hints of depth of field. Difficult to know if that is actually an option in-game. It certainly seemed to appear during conversations, and I did see it on some of the cinematic shots. Is it there during the gameplay? Don't know. If it is, then there's going to be no need for me to create Dynavision. However, if it isn't there, I will of course look into getting that mod ported across to Fallout 4 pretty quickly, and there shouldn't be a problem doing that because, as I've said, it does seem to be using the same engine as Skyrim did. A lot of the work I have done for that game will be applicable to Fallout 4, which is good news, at least, if you're interested in that kind of thing. Overall, the graphics looked pretty good. The textures are difficult to judge. It's very difficult to judge textures from a live stream because of the compression. It's true on YouTube as well, but it's even worse on live streams. But they looked pretty good. I was looking at all the various different objects and nothing jumped out as being really ugly. I'm almost certain that people will be making even higher quality textures pretty much immediately. That'll be one of the first types of mods that comes out, and you'll be seeing texture overhauls for this object, that object, and eventually massive packs of textures to make it even better. But even the vanilla game looked pretty good. Something that is probably more important than the graphics: the music. This was something that was pretty important to me in Fallout 3. It had a big effect on me. Not just the ambient music that was playing during gameplay, but the music that was coming over the radio, the sort of music you expected to hear when you walked into bars, that style, that old jazz style music, I thought was absolutely brilliant. And the music for this one sounds good as well. There are hints that they're going to be, bringing back some of the things like the ink spots, but there seemed to be an almost rock and roll vibe at times. That could have been for the trailer, you'd never know, but it kind of felt like it fit the game. It was kind of cool, so maybe we're going to see more of that. But it does look like that once again they're going to be using some of those old style music, maybe different genres, maybe some more rock and roll feel. I'm really looking forward to finding out what is in game. We do, well, at least we think Three Dogs is making a return. Let's just hope. Of course, the PipBoy has returned. It wouldn't be a Fallout game without the PipBoy, and we got to see it in action, and it looks great. It looks a lot better than the PipBoy in Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3. It is still a wrist-mounted affair, but it seems to be much smaller. It looks less intrusive on your arm. It's probably going to look a lot better with the armors you're going to find than the one in Fallout 3 did, and all round it looks nicer and easier to use. When you actually open it up, you can see your other hand, you can see your right hand manipulating the dials, which wouldn't have actually been possible on the Fallout 3 version, on the PipBoy 3000, because the dials were in the wrong bloody place. Your hand would have obscured your screen. The new one does not have that problem, and it's very cool because you actually see your fingers moving, you can see your arm moving, and it's all fully animated. So for example, if you want to listen to a holotape or watch a holotape, you actually see yourself load the tape into the PipBoy with a very cool animation. So it just feels a little more usable and also a little more real. The actual display itself has got the same style that you're used to. It looks very Fallout-esque. However, it looks a lot nicer. It's all animated, it's very cool, it seems a lot more modern whilst not losing what it was that made it a Fallout display. And there even seem to be options to play video games on your PipBoy. They showed a sort of missile command style game that you could play on your PipBoy if you wanted to, which was kind of cool. The VAT system has returned, which I think is great. I think VAT was a brilliant idea. It was a way to let people who really felt like Fallout should rely on the character's skill and not on the player's skill in combat situations and capture that same feeling, that same effect. It allowed them to, essentially let the character take over, let his skill dictate whether or not they made that headshot. And I used VATS in both New Vegas and Fallout 3 on my first playthroughs, and I really do think it was a great system. And of course you can ignore it if you prefer the FPS feel, if you prefer to use your own skill. I mean, that's fine. You can still do that in Fallout 4. I watched plenty of gameplay footage that let you shoot. You could play third person and shoot. You could go first person. Iron sights are back. We have iron sights, which I did expect. I expected that to be a feature. We had it in New Vegas. Why would we not have it in Fallout 4? But VATS is there too, and it seems to be better looking than ever. Where in Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3, VATS would kind of feel clumsy. You would press it and time would literally stop still, and then everything would be like a picture, and everything felt flat, is the best way I can describe it. What I saw from Fallout 4 is that was not the case. When you went into VATS, things kept moving. It seemed, instead of stopping time, it seemed to slow time down as if you were in bullet time, and you would quickly select a limb you would shoot at and then fire it and carry on moving. It made it feel far more fluid, it made it feel far more in the moment, and, well, a lot less clumsy and a lot less flat. It kept that 3D look. It did help that the visuals were done slightly better, but overall, it looked really good. So if you're a fan of the VAT system, I think, from what I saw, you're going to like that. The user interface and heads-up display was a bit of a mixed bag, some good and some bad. It does seem to be less cluttered than the Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas heads-up display. A lot of things seem to disappear. For example, the player health and action points only seem to appear when you're using them, when your health has dropped below 100%. The ammo that you have in your current weapon only seems to show up when you have the weapon out. And maybe even firing. I'm not totally sure. A lot of this is guessing from the gameplay footage, but in other times when the gun was away and the player was just walking around, all of those things seem to be gone. So I'm assuming they're kind of dynamic. And the only thing that was left was the compass and the crosshair. So very similar to Skyrim. One exception to this was the heads-up display that seemed to appear once you got in power armor, which had a few dials and had some cool graphics showing you your power armor condition, how damaged it is, and that all looked pretty good actually. It looked very appropriate, the sort of thing you would see if you had a power armor helmet on your head. I actually quite liked that, so that side of it was pretty cool. I'll talk about power armor in a little while. There does seem to be a fairly comprehensive crafting system in-game. You seem to be able to make a lot of your own weapons. You can modify existing weapons. I think you can almost build your own mods, and it looks pretty complicated and pretty well done. It looks interesting. It looks like the sort of thing that you're going to want to play with, try different things and see how they work. The interface itself looked fine, it actually looked pretty cool. It's far more Skyrim-esque again. Once again, you're in the crafting menu and you see your character working the workbench in the background, a little blurred, whilst you're looking at all the items. There seem to be things like armor modifications, armor crafting, layered armor. You seem to be able to add pieces of armor on top of other pieces of armor. You can customize your armor, which is going to be brilliant. And there just seem to be a lot of options for making your gear exactly the way you want to make it, which I think is brilliant. And I mean, that brings us very, very neatly onto the subject of power armor, because the same is true for power armor. You build power armor from pieces of power armor that you find around the wasteland, I think, or make. You can customize it, you can add things to it. We were watching the crafting process, and it looks like there's an endless array of options, which is absolutely phenomenal. But there have also been a lot of changes to power armor itself in how it looks and how it plays, and by how it looks, I mean, in the Fallout universe, power armor is not supposed to be just armor you slip on like metal armor. It's supposed to be more like a vehicle that you're driving. That's why you need a skill to use power armor. You don't wear power armor, you use it. And this game shows you that. When there was a shot where you climb into the power armor, it looked awesome. And it's very, very Iron Man. It all closes around you. It looked very cool, and it definitely gave you that feeling of being in a vehicle. The heads-up display, as I've mentioned, looked very appropriate with its dials. There seems to be options to make things like jetpacks. Now, I don't know if that means you're going to be able to fly, but it certainly seems that you can jump off tall buildings and get a kind of reduced fall rate, which is going to be very, very cool. And all round, the power armor experience looks like it's going to be, you know, far better. It's going to be done in a way that's probably going to attract people who were otherwise not interested in it. I mean, you just looked at it as heavy armor, right? Now it looks like it's going to have people very interested at doing at least one power armor run. And there were some other things hinted. For example, air combat. You seem to be able to climb into a vertibird and mount one of the weapons. I don't know if you can fly it yourself, but there does seem to be an element of air travel and air combat in the game. Talking about combat, I did notice something in one of the shots where you had the option to execute a critical. I'm not sure if that means criticals are no longer random, but something you have to try and do. You have to activate them yourself, but there did seem to be this option. One of the more amazing things they announced, one of the things they showed us in great detail, was something that made me, well, almost speechless for a while, and it caused the entire audience to gasp, and that was the house building. It would seem that in this game, you can create your own player house. And I don't just mean buy one, get the keys, and customize it a little bit. I mean build it from scratch. You can go out and scavenge materials from the world. Tires, wood, you can break down other parts of buildings and furniture, I think, and then build your own house. And I don't know how free it is. I don't know how many places you can build these buildings. Perhaps there's only one place. Perhaps there are a limited number of places. I doubt you're going to be able to build these houses anywhere in the wasteland. But you can build this house to your own needs. You craft the pieces, you place them where you want to place them. And I mean, it looks amazing. But beyond that, you can also create things like turrets, base defense, to fight off raiders. It looks like you're not just building a home, but a settlement, which is amazing. And it didn't look like it was separate from the world. This looks like it's in-game. This is a house that you will have in-game. You will build it in-game, and it will be useful to you in-game. It will exist in the world, not as some separate entity somewhere where you fast travel to it, but I think you walk to it and you can see your house. And you go in there and do all your crap. It just looked incredible. It really did. Too early to say because we haven't actually got our hands on it, but what we saw was it was amazing. It was that sort of thing is just such a welcome sight to see these little additions to the world, these things that you have created that make you actually part of the world, make it seem like you have shaped the world yourself. You've had an effect on it. Now, there were some things that are probably going to be controversial, and these are things that are not going to surprise most of you by now. It is confirmed there is a voiced protagonist, and this is one of those things that some people are going to hate. They are going to loathe it. It is a voiced protagonist. You can play male or female, but this protagonist has a voice, and I'm afraid it's only one voice for each gender, so 2 voices. There are a lot of lines, 13,000 lines. And I'm mentioning that not to impress you, but to point out that if you were hoping there would be alternate voice mods later on, that's a lot of lines people are going to have to make. So if you didn't like the main protagonist's voice and you wanted angry voice or sinister voice or whatever it is you want, whoever does that voicing has got to do 13,000 lines, which is a hell of a lot. The good news there, in a way, is you can choose whether or not to have first person or third person conversations, so you could stay in first person, which is more like the original Fallout games and Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. And I'm going to imagine that a mod that removes the voice for the protagonist is going to be a fairly high priority for the modding community. And because it won't force you to go into third person, I think that will be relatively, well, I wouldn't say easy, but doable. There will almost certainly be a mod for the PC that will disable the voice for the protagonist and replace it with, you will select a dialogue choice and he will say that. Maybe you'll see a subtitle, but you can imagine it in any voice that you want, and you won't have to see it cut to him in third person and see his lips move. You will just play it the same way as you played number 3 and Fallout New Vegas. So I think that's going to be one of the things. This is yet another reason why people should be playing this on PC, for the mods. And that's only if, of course, you are bothered by the voiced protagonist. Many people really don't care, and some people even like it. So there you go. It is a thing. It is probably going to be a major point of discussion. However, something that bothered me a little more, and it didn't bother me but worried me, was the dialogue itself. It seemed to be a 4-option dialogue, which is very similar to the Mass Effect games, that type of thing. And I'm not totally sure how I feel about that, or even if that's how it's going to be for PC. We might find that the PC one has more options. 4 options doesn't seem to be a lot. And what I mean by that is you'll have access to more options at a single click. I realise there will be the same number of lines for console and PC, but I was thinking on console maybe you've only got 4 and one of them will have to be more and it will go to another sub-menu, whereas on the PC you'll just have access to all the dialogue in one go. We can live in hope. It also means that when you're choosing dialogue, I think you're choosing like a short sentence, but you're probably saying more than that. It's going to be like playing The Witcher or Mass Effect when you choose a line that says, I don't think I'll do that, and then the character talks for 10 lines or something and says essentially that, but he embellishes. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. More than the voice thing, I like saying what I say. If I click on a dialogue option, I want to say what I just clicked. That's what happens in Skyrim, and that's what happened in Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas. But here's the thing, we don't know. We don't know if that's going to be the case, at least not for the PC. It was hinted, though, that that's how it's going to be on the console. So that's going to be something I think... That's going to be another point of contention, I think. Will it affect the game massively? Probably not. I mean, things like this, they're always going to offend. There's going to be that 0.01% who go absolutely bonkers and refuse to buy the game, and there's nothing you can do. I think some people are going to like this, some people are going to hate it. Most people who are Fallout fans are probably going to think, I kind of wish they hadn't done that. At least that's my reading on this. I don't think many people are going to be totally in love with that. But we're going to have to see. And finally, one last little niggle. One thing that might be contentious, but it's something we don't know. It's pure speculation at the moment, and that is the character development system. They didn't show much about that. The special system is back. You have got your specials. We know from an interview that the perks are back, but nobody knows if skills are back. We didn't see skills on the PipBoy. Nobody spoke about skills, and we didn't see a tab for it on any of the pictures. It may just mean that the skills are in a sub-menu and you get there some other way, but other people are speculating they've completely removed skills and so on. This is one of those areas that is massive speculation and is probably going to cause tons and tons of conversation no matter which way it is. If they've removed the skill system and replaced it with something else, that is going to cause controversy, whether it's good or not. They may have replaced it with a great system, a system that is actually just so much better in every way. Some people are going to hate it anyway because it's change, and they want the old system. They like the old system. It's what they consider the Fallout system, and that's going to be a powerful effect. And I know I'm one of these people who generally tries to ignore those instincts inside myself, but I've got a big pang of nostalgia for the old skill system. I don't actually think it's a very good skill system. I think it's a terrible skill system. From a purely logical point of view, when I look at the Fallout skill system, I can't help but think, my God, this is terrible. It really is. People say, I do hope they're not going to dumb it down. You can't dumb the Fallout system down. it's basically at the lowest level. But still, it's what I'm used to for Fallout, and I'm not sure how I feel about, its removal. If it's been removed. I don't want to talk about it much more in this video because I think it's just so much speculation that it's ridiculous. I am going to make a second video where I discuss that in depth. And by that I mean I'm going to ramble for ages about that one subject alone, so we can have that discussion there about the skill system. But just be warned, there will be discussion about this all over the internet until we get a confirmation as to whether or not the skill system has been removed or not, or changed, and then of course we'll just get a whole new conversation about that particular piece of information. So there you go. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is it. That is what I saw at the E3. Well, from the streaming. That is what I gleaned from seeing the E3 conference and the interview with Todd Howard. Those are my thoughts. Those are my impressions. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you found them interesting. Of course, I probably missed God knows how many things, and people will be reminding me in the comments down below, and I will almost certainly have to do several videos on this subject. Let's face it, this is going to be a hot topic for some time. But for now, I'm going to bid you farewell, and I will see you on, well, probably the next Fallout 4 ramble. Good night, thank you for joining me, and for the 300,000 subscribers out there, thank you very, very much for subscribing. To the thousands of people who joined me for the E3 conference to watch in awe at their pretty damned impressive conference, thank you for joining me. I hope you got some sleep eventually. So, goodbye, and until next time, remember, as always, have fun.
Let's go, pal.